Welcome, everyone. My name is Danielle Ogden. I am the Executive Director of the Newport Art Museum. Many of you are coming literally fresh off the water, so thank you for making it tonight. It is our mission to connect the community through the arts. Sailing holds a very special place in the fabric of Newport, and we are delighted to host this discussion featuring some of the world's leading sailing photographers. It's a privilege to bring this event to our community and celebrate the artistry of sailing photography through their lenses. Joining us tonight is Sharon Green. You just put up your hand, Sharon Green, Danielle Forrester, Anne Vanderwall, Carlo Berlenghi, who is coming, Corey Silken, Dan Nerney, Marina Semenova, and Stephen Cloutier. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, we have Brad Reed, Executive Director of Sail Newport. We're so grateful to you for moderating tonight's wonderful event. So the format of this evening is we will begin with very brief introductions. Brad will facilitate a very informal discussion with all of our panelists, and then there'll be the opportunity to have all of you in the audience ask questions to our panelists. That'll be up till about, let's say, about an hour, and then we will invite you to the library, jury gallery outside to enjoy a cocktail reception sponsored by Newport Craft. There will be rum, in case any of you were worried. It's a wonderful opportunity to have all of these panelists here and continue the conversation with all of them in our cocktail reception. Once again, thank you all for coming to the Newport Art Museum. We hope you enjoy this enriching experience celebrating the art and adventure of sailing photography. And Brad, I will hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle, and the entire staff and board of directors and everyone here at the Newport Art Museum. What a great venue. Thank you for cranking the AC. It's nice relief. My name is Brad Reed. I'm the executive director of Sail Newport. And we got, ladies and gentlemen, Carlo Berlenghi.
Sorry to be late.
That's okay. I'll make fun of you for it. That's not going to go there. Welcome. So I'm the executive director of Sail Newport. My staff says I'm overexposed because I do too many events. However, I'm delighted to be here tonight, and I'm thrilled to be the moderator of this panel of the world's premier marine photographers. All are artists, all are successful business people, all are passionate, creative, and wonderful to work with when they're here in Newport shooting the many different events that we as Sail Newport run, or any of the yacht clubs, New York, Ida Lewis, Connecticut, etc. It's a really, I'm uniquely positioned and uniquely qualified to moderate this panel because I did take a photography course in 8th grade. Yep, which I learned how to use the f-stop, whatever that thing, f-stop thing. But it was really important. I did get a lot of accolades for photographing and documenting my brother throwing snowballs at cars. My parents really appreciated seeing that evidence, so they could ground him for pretty much 20 years. But it's a blast working with these folks. I've gotten to drive a powerboat for Anna a few times, and I think Danielle, and I just cannot wait to hear what they all have to say about why they're in this business and how passionate they are about looking at sailing through their eyeballs and through their lenses. So first, we're going to go into an introduction. Each photographer, marine artist, I should say, is going to introduce themselves and a little bit about what they do. And first up, ladies and gentlemen, if they could have the microphone. Is there a microphone over there? Okay. Danielle Forrester, ladies and gentlemen. Just stand up.
Good evening. Shall I introduce myself or my profession or my cameras?
Right.
So, as most of you know, I grew up in a little village in Switzerland 300 people, but on a lake. So I learned to sail there. And sorry, the short story or the long story?
Danielle, you're going to tell a long story regardless of what I say.
Anyhow, he's in charge. So I went to an apprenticeship as a photographer in a studio, and my boss was a member of the yacht club, and we talked about sailing all the time on the weekends. So before the weekend, we talked about the upcoming regattas, and on Mondays, we talked about the last regattas we had just a few days ago. So anyway, he sent me to the Swiss Yachting Magazine and said, show them your pictures. And they sent me to Kiel near Hamburg in 1971. Was anybody born before that? And 72. So it takes a little luck and it takes a little talent. So luckily in 72, when the fog pictures come up, we stop. In 72, the editor sent me to Kiel for the Kiel Week, and it's the biggest sailing week in the world. And it was the Olympic Games in Munich, and Kiel had the Sailing Olympics, and that was my first Olympic Games in 72. And I did 12 Olympic Games and 13 America's Cups. My first America's Cup was 77 here, and then I did all the other America's Cup in Australia and New Zealand and San Diego and so on. Fast forward, I do with Carlo, we do photography for Rolex, the sponsor of many events, and so I've been 15 times at the Sydney Hobart regattas. Carlo in the boat, I'm in the helicopter next time. He's in the helicopter, I'm in the boat. And now I do mostly the American events. So you saw a few pictures of mine, and this is a unique one, which never happened before. It happened maybe, but what happened here was the Volvo Ocean Race start in Cape Town. You see the Table Mountain over there. And we were in the helicopter in 2001, and the pilot says, you don't have to worry about the 10 other helicopters. They went home because the boats went in the fog. So I said, can we go up instead of home? And we went up, and I saw this, and I knew there was no television, there was no other helicopter, no other photographer. And I was looking around for a TV, and it was just before the cameras had actually video. I couldn't take a video. So I took pictures, and that was the time I switched from digital to film. So I had two cameras, one with film, one with digital, and I shot all the rolls with film and then all the digital. And when I came back to the press office, they all said, you're late. And I said, yes, I'm a little late. And I opened my laptop and I put the card in, and they came all, and they knew that they missed that. So this is 2 more seconds. What happens
Okay.
is when you sail,
1, 2.
you move the air around, and you don't see it because there's no fog. So the fog stopped at the top of the masts, and the air is moving around, and because the fog is there, you can see the moving. And later on, you can have more questions, I'm sure. That's it.
Thank you, Danielle. Excellent. So next up, thank you, Danielle. Next up, we're just going to go right along the line. From Newport, Rhode Island, by way of Woonsocket, Rhode Island, Stephen Cloutier.
Wow, thank you very much. I'll be short. Daniel used up all my time, but my background, I think I'm probably the only one here that really didn't grow up sailing or much of a racer. My background is more in professional sports and photojournalism, working for the New England Patriots and the Associated Press. And I think it was like 2004, I met Barbie McGowan. She's here tonight. And she opened the door for me to start shooting sailing in Newport about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And then not long after that, I met Daniel Forster, who brought me on board to work with him, alongside him, for Rolex yacht racing. And we've been around the world in Sydney, Hobart, and all over shooting racing. And it's been quite the adventure for 20 years. So anyway, I'll keep it short. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen. And now, from Moscow in Russia, Marina Semenova.
Hello, my name is Marina Semenova. I'm from Russia. I just moved from Moscow to US. 1 month I'm here. I'm new. I've got talent visa, and now I'm going to stay in US. I have a small speech. I would like to thank some people who have made it possible for me to be here. First of all, it's Carlo Barlenghi. He inspired me to be a sailing photographer 10 years ago. He helped me he opened for me the sailing world. He showed me how to be a sailing photographer. Because of him, I'm start to be a photographer. The second one, it's Sharon Green. She invited me to take part in your famous calendar, Ultimate Sailing, and also she prepared an incredible article about me, and it really helped me to get the talent visa for USA. Thank you so much. And also Steven Coutier, she helped me now. I'm sorry. He helped me now. He invited me in her media vote, and also he introduced me to Emily, who invited me in this event. Thank you so much.
And now we have Dan Nerney, who is from Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and probably who is the first photographer that I really paid attention to as a kid, watching all of the incredible images from the 60s and 70s of the America's Cups. Does a ton of work with New York Yacht Club still. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Nerney.
Thank you, Brad. I'd like to say thanks to a couple of people here before I get into a brief bio here. I want to thank Emmeline and Danny for organizing this thing, and perhaps I should be thanking the progenitor of this event, Steve Cloutier. I think Steve is the progenitor of it. I'd also like to thank the people at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston for saving the man next to me. So, I'm from Attleboro, Massachusetts. I studied at RISD, and I studied graphic design. I got out of there in 1962 and spent 5 years as a Coast Guard officer driving a Coast Guard cutter. And it was great fun, and hence that has had a great deal of influence in some of the work that I've done for the Coast Guard and just for the fun of it. I love flying in their helicopters and going into the training for the 47-foot motor lifeboat. I spent a lot of time at Cape Disappointment at the mouth of the Columbia River. It separates Washington from Oregon. Great training area. I've been, 28 years as the New York Yacht Club's official photographer. I live in Portsmouth, and I don't know if there's anything else I can add to it. I'll pass it on to Anna.
Oh, I'll be passing it on to
All
Anna. I've probably known Anna longer than anybody on the panel. He and my roommate Dan Dickinson over the years played a lot of water polo together. I've gotten to know Anna and Tenley and the kids over decades. And ladies and gentlemen, from Jamestown, Rhode Island, which seems to be a hotbed of yachting photographers, by way of Cape Town, South Africa, Anna Vanderwall.
Thank you. Dan, thank you. Brad, thank you for moderating. You always do such a great job, and you're the spirit of these get-togethers, be it at the Pickens or here or whatever. And to the museum for giving us a chance to talk about what we do and what we love doing and how we make a living. I won't get choked up. On the Whitbread Round the World race, on a boat called Flyer in 1981 with a camera. And by chance, started taking some pictures, got a couple of covers, bumped into Danielle and Cowles in 1981, and I said to him, hey, Swiss photographer, what's this F11 and F250? What's that all about? He was very polite, he helped me, but little did he know I'd be nipping at his heels about 20 years later. So in any case, 1981, 82, we won the Round the World race. My pictures were in demand. It was a start. And for 5 years, I kept racing because I had a nice ticket in my back pocket of winning the Whitbread. And I came here in 87 and started shooting. And it's just an amazing place to shoot sailing. Why do I do it? Because it's such a cool sport. I came from a professional background of sailing. I got tired of scrubbing decks and listening to owners screaming at me. And I thought, I'm going to go out there on my own boat, on my own time, and shoot sailing. And now I make more of a living out of advertising in the powerboat market, some sailing. But still, it's not funny. It's dead serious. Thank you. You can laugh. Don't cry. So it's been, and I'm luckily, as Dan said, I'm here today. It feels great. So I was out on doing TP52 today with Sharon. The two of us had a good chat. Wonderful shooting. And that's my story. So thank you. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you, Anna. A person I've probably sailed against more than anybody else on this panel is our next photographer. And I also want to mention he's got an amazing store, as Anna does. Anna and Tenley run a beautiful gallery, and so does Corey down on Thames Street. Ladies and gentlemen, from Newport, Rhode Island, Corey Silken.
Thank you, Brad, and the museum, and thank you all for coming tonight. I'm tickled to be here because I remember one day when I was about 20 years old going into Anna's gallery and saying, hi, I'm Corey, I'm going to be your competition someday. And I guess I'm sitting next to him now, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, so I started off specializing in classic yachts, and that was really where my passion for the photography of it began. And actually, my father and I had a Herreshoff S-Class boat that we raced for a long time. And from the classics, that brought me more also into the super yachts and now shooting more motor yachts as well. And my work brings me to beautiful places, and they're also beautiful places that I'd like to preserve. So I also work now doing a lot doing pro bono projects as an ambassador for 11th Hour Racing, trying to promote sustainability through sailing. And as Brad mentioned, I've got the gallery down on Thames Street, and I spend a lot of time there, also focusing on the art of sailing and trying to look at boats also from a more creative perspective than I get to for my commercial assignments and assignments for private clients. So I've been enjoying that a lot lately too. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Sharon, I've known for years. Back in the day, she was always omnipresent on the big boat circuit, on her dad's boat, Evergreen, sailing in Canada's Cups and a lot of different things around the world. She has probably the most recognized, Anna, annual calendar in the sailing world, the ultimate sailing calendar. Ladies and gentlemen, from Santa Barbara, California, by way of Burlington, Ontario, Canada, Sharon Green.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you all for being here. I was going to talk a little bit more about some of the images on how you get the shot, but I'll just give you a quick background on me. I grew up in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, on freshwater, even though I thought that I grew up with salt in my veins because my dad sailed around the world when he was 18 with Irving and X.C. Johnson on the Brigantine Yankee. So I was born with it in my blood. Anyhow, I actually really thought I was going to be the next Ansel Adams, and I did go to a photography school in Banff, Alberta, Canada, and studied under a protege of Ansel Adams, and I was really bad. And I was not very good at standing on terra firma. So when my dad launched Evergreen to challenge for the Canada's Cup, I went out one day on a Boston whaler, and I really found my niche. Was much better at that. Anyhow, I'm going to talk really quick. Chris, if we could go back to that first one with all the spinnakers lined up. There you go. Okay, so back in the 80s, the Big Boat Series was one of my most favorite regattas, and because of all the color, and we used spinnakers and bloopers back in those days. So this picture always reminds me of a presentation. I was speaking at a conference, photo conference of sports photographers, and somebody put up their hand and said, "Hey, how did you get all those boats to line up like that?" So let's just rewind here. We're talking the 80s. We're talking manual everything, manual exposure, manual everything, film, salt water flying everywhere, loading cartridges of 36 frames into your cameras, and getting drowned in a Boston whaler. And there I was at Big Boat Series. And so when this woman asked me this question, I just thought about, wow, if only I could say, can you guys go back and do that again? I was reloading, rewinding. I had to clean off my lens. The boat was in the wrong position, and all the spinnakers weren't lined up. Okay, we can forward to the next one. This is just another challenge question. One of the hardest things to do is to photograph boats going upwind from a chase boat. I think all my colleagues would probably agree that that is the wettest thing on the planet, and especially when it's fresh to frightening, which is my favorite condition. Okay, we move on. This was here in Newport, Rhode Island, when we had Endeavour and Shamrock sail off, once again in the day of manual everything, manual exposure. I used to even use a light meter, as I think we all did at one point. And
back in the day where they wore rugby shirts as crew gear.
And short shorts. This shot was here when Elizabeth Meyer had restored Endeavour, and I was lucky enough to be invited on board that day. And I just saw this happening, Carl Lassard going up, and I just ran forward, opened up the f-stop, just guessed on the exposure, because back in those days we were shooting transparency film, which there's no room for error, no half stop under, half stop over. You had to be exact 100%. And slides were spectacular and gorgeous when they were gorgeous. This was also here in Newport, Maxi Series one year, also back in the day of film, where you couldn't look in the back of your camera and say, like we do now in digital days, you couldn't look at the back of the camera and say, oh, did I get the shot? Did I get that shot? And so this was a Maxi Series here, and we had no right being out there at this finish. It was just gnarly, and I heard this big crack, and I zoomed in, and then I didn't see the guy flying off the back of the boat, his leg caught in the runner. And so when the film came back, which was several days later, the film came back, and I'm looking on the light table going, oh, I didn't get the rig snapping. But I think the next frame actually has the rig snapping, and then the guy landing on his face in the back of the boat. But I didn't even see that when I was shooting it, because in those days, you're shooting film, and then you're looking at it with a loop on a light table, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? He's flying off the back of the boat. And then he's landing in the boat, and I had no idea. Anyhow, is there one more shot, or was that it? Okay. So that's pretty much it. I thought I'd talk a little bit more about technique. So there you go.
Excellent. We'll get into technique later. Thank you very much, Sharon. We can get the microphone over to Carlo. Perfect. So our next panelist, who was on the water all day today, taking some amazing pictures, Carlo is one of those photographers that you see at all of the biggest events doing the craziest things in helicopters and planes. I've followed your career since I was in college. It's an amazing career you've had. Ladies and gentlemen, from Lake Como, Italy, Carlo Berlinghi.
Good night. Thanks. It's already say all. I can add nothing. Now, I want just to tell one thing, because a friend of mine, Margherita Bottini, is here. We start together to work in the past That was our first picture with the Italian Vogue magazine dedicated to the sea. We was together in the same magazine, and this was my start, the boat start for us. And then I followed Vogue. It was a good presentation for us to work for Vogue in this time. And then the career was, they opened the career quickly. I followed all the America's Cup. I followed from '83. I followed some Olympic Games, some around the world race. I don't supposed to be a yachting photographer because I don't sailing, I don't swimming. It was just a combination. But now I'm happy to do this job. Okay. Thanks for.
Thank you, Carlo. Okay, so I'm going to ask a few questions, and we'll do a couple little speed rounds to try to get some quick, Danielle, answers from our photographers and our marine artists. But first, I'm going to ask you, I would say, let's see, I'm going to go with Marina. Marina, can you share with us, a defining image, an image that you think has launched your career? One image or one event that you photographed that really launched your career in marine photography?
It's a difficult question for me. Sorry for my English, I'm really nervous and it's not easy to be here.
No, you're doing a great job. Let's hear it for Marina.
It was my first event with Carlo. Carlo invited me to join with him in Monaco Prima Cup. And he showed me what is it, the sailing photography. Yes,
It was a present for her boyfriend.
For my ex-husband, yes.
Ex-boyfriend.
It's a short story.
We want that story too.
I saw the pictures of Carlo in Facebook. I was involved in sailing a little bit, and when I saw his picture, I thought it's amazing. I would like to be like he. I would like to be a sailing photographer, fly on the helicopter and with the big lens. And I thinking about it, and I told about it my ex-husband, and he decided to write to Carla directly. Carla, my wife would like to be a sailing photographer. Maybe you can help me and help her. And Carla say, yes, okay, she can come to Monaco, and I will show you. I will show you how it would be. And one moment, I came to Monaco, and Carla showed me everything. And after that, I have some boost in my sailing career. I start to work as a sailing photographer from Monaco, then Italy. Mostly I work in Europe, not in Russian, because in Russian sailing it's not good level and super slow.
Yeah.
But now
Great. Thank you, Marina. So Dan Nerney, Dan, can you describe your process for composing a shot amidst the chaos of a sailboat race? Or the next part of this question, is it better to be lucky than good?
Well, can I tell you what my favorite regatta is to shoot? Is the FAR 40 class. Mm-hmm. There's nothing quite like the FAR 40 class of the first weather mark when you've got 15 or 20 boats in the class and they approach the weather mark. It is at that point that I wish that I had a video camera with sound, because the sound of the French, the Italian, the English, you've got no room, you get the F out of there. You've got no space, no rights, get out of here, fuck you. You know, it's It's exciting. The boats are perfectly matched, and that's my favorite event to shoot. Sadly, we don't see the FAR 40s around anymore.
So you actually you answered both of those last two questions too, because there's chaos out there, right?
Oh, indeed, yes.
Yeah. And so putting your boat in the right position and communicating with your driver or
Yes.
helicopter driver.
I always like to be at that weather mark. I like to be a little to the starboard side of the starboard ley line and away from the course marshals and the Coast Guard.
Great. I haven't called on you yet. See how this is going to go. We had a pre-meeting. Didn't go well. All right, so Anna, I'm going to keep going down the road. What is the least favorite mispronunciation of your first name?
That's a low blow if I've ever heard one. I'm going to indirectly, like they do in the presidential, answer it one-y, one, oh, nay. I have very many variations on a theme. So there we go. That's the answer.
There you go. That's a good answer.
We'll keep it sharp and short and
that's
not like the clockmaker and
yeah.
the cheesemaker down the
Okay,
way.
you're going too far now.
Okay, sorry.
All right, now a real question. All right, so you've done tropical, you've done a lot of Arctic work up in the upper reaches of the Arctic, Antarctic. Which would you rather do? Tropical destinations, and take the climate out of it. Take the climate out of it. Tropical destinations or Arctic, which would you rather photograph?
Arctic in a heartbeat. It's just more pristine. It's quieter. It's a lot of times you won't see a soul for days. No airplanes. No other boats. It's beautiful. I mean, the last trip I did was Greenland, and I did 2 trips almost back-to-back to Greenland, and it was probably some of the most incredible stuff I've ever shot, and it was on my bucket list, and I was so psyched to be able to go. So tropics are beautiful. I love swimming, but I'd rather put my hiking boots on and sling a gun over my shoulder in case of polar bear, but that's it.
Excellent. Great answer. All right, Corey, what upcoming events are you most excited about covering?
Upcoming events. Well, it's not so much an event, but one of my clients is building a new super yacht, which I think is the last one was beyond extraordinary, and the next one I'm really excited to see it. So that's, well, you're just going to have to wait and see. Because, like those guys, they try to build the boat with the next tallest mast, and they won't tell you before it's built how tall the mast is going to be, because they don't want the next guy to start, his buddy to start building another one that's another meter taller before his is finished.
As you would.
As you would.
Right. Thank you, Corey. Sharon, you've talked a little bit about the technical demands of your profession and the changeover from digital, from film. How do you balance the technical demands of your industry with the artistic vision that you have and just the amazing work you do?
Well, there's a lot of prep, just making sure everything's all charged, cards are clean, that you've got a great external drive for downloading at the end of the day when everything is now and immediately, you've got to have it right this second, unlike the film days. But technically, it's, there's a lot going on with these cameras. They're pretty complicated now, and things do go wrong, especially in the digital world. Things do happen. There's little glitches that happen and gremlins that get into your camera and do all kinds of crazy things. But basically, I just prep and try and make sure batteries are charged. That's number one. Number two is a card in the camera.
Carlo, I'm going to stay on this one. If we could get past the microphone down to Carlo. So staying on that theme, how do you think the advancements in technology have influenced photography both positively and negatively? How have the advancements been positive, and are there any drawbacks? Are there any negative parts of the technology?
The technology was very important for us. I remember when there was a manual focus lens, and each year they improve a lot. Some picture, now you can do some picture that was impossible to do many years ago. and it also is much easier to do. But I experiment also the artificial intelligence for the picture, just for to play to see how we can go. I had an exhibition in Italy 1 month ago about this. For me, it was the technology was very important because when they come out the first digital camera, the cost was a lot. Because the decision was to buy a small flat in the lake or a digital camera.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to decide. I bought the camera, and then was the best success here for me in terms of business because I was only the first one to reach the newspaper. Average of all year.
Right.
After that, every time they come out new things, I follow.
Yep. You have to keep it up.
You have to
Yep.
be updated all the time.
Right.
And, but use the brain because the picture they come from here, and the picture they come from there.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Danielle, you ready? All right, so Danielle, I don't know if a lot of you know, Danielle has done an amazing job of, in the wintertime, kind of pivoting. He's got this genre of photographs, which are unbelievable, of moonrises over Newport, and all sorts of different angles of stars and moon, but it's an unpredictable weather situation that you all have to deal with when you're going out to shoot. You know, you've been doing these kind of marinescapes as well as photographing sailboat races. So how do you cope with the unpredictable weather and the sea conditions, especially during a shoot?
Well, number one, you can't change the weather, and it's always fantastic. Every day I go out on a boat and I think, today is a different day. And every day you just deal with the weather, but you have to be prepared. It's a sunny day, but you have to bring your foul weather gear. You have to bring your box, which is waterproof, just in case a squall comes through.
Right.
So the preparedness is number one, because you can't trust the weather. they up there don't care. And so you have to be prepared to any situation. And sometimes I have underwater housing for the camera, just in case it rains and you're in an open boat. And that was actually pioneered by Carlo Berlenghi. He was how many years ago you had an underwater housing to take pictures of pictures of he had a underwater housing for his camera, and we all said, well, we have to technology, we have to buy one too, so we all bought another one.
The problem was because I don't swim. It was necessary for me to shoot.
Because he doesn't swim, so he has underwater housing. He just puts it in the water. It doesn't go in the water. It sends the camera. So that's the short story.
Great. So Stephen, you had mentioned, you're a kid from Woonsocket. You're, well.
That was a joke from Dan Ernie earlier.
Oh, you're not? Oh, well, okay, thank you. Thank you for teeing up a bad joke for me. But you had so many mentors. I mean, Rhode Island has so many incredible photographers, including some that aren't in this room right now. Amory Ross, Billy Black. So first of all, how many aspiring photographers do we have in this room right now who take pictures? Sarah Seaman, Rodrigo, I see you back there, Matt Cohen. There's a lot of you guys. And all of it, yep, all of us have mentors, right? And you're here to hear from your mentors, these incredible artists. Stephen, who is your biggest mentor?
I would have to say Daniel Forrester, bringing me on board to work with him alongside him for Rolex about 10 or so years ago. And we've been on quite the adventure since then. Working Sydney Hobart, Big Boat Series in San Francisco, all the Rolex North American events here with New York Yacht Club. It's been a pretty amazing adventure. And learning from him and being so close to him and working so closely with him in the helicopter, on the boat, and and getting his photos on my iPad and editing right there and transmitting back to the sailing office or whoever needs the photos live, pretty much off the boat or the helicopter. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, what was the number one lesson that you remember early on in your relationship with Danielle? And you notice I'm asking these questions about Danielle with you and not to Danielle.
Exactly. Being there, being in the position, and learning how to translate what you may see to be developing in the race and translating that to your
Right.
photo boat driver or your helicopter pilot. And if I can say also, Sharon Green as well, working Transpac, the Los Angeles Honolulu race has been absolutely amazing, the past 2 editions.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, I have a couple more questions, but before we're going to ask one more question and try to get a discussion here. The business of photography has changed. It used to be the magazines, the newspapers, the periodicals that were the clients. Now with Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the different social media elements, and the yacht clubs that are hiring you to do these things, the business has changed. Dan, you've seen it come full circle. How do you see that it's changed? Am I right? Is this something that is continuing to evolve?
Yes, magazines. I used to make a living on magazine photography, and that's gone a long ways away. They don't pay you now for what is appearance on Facebook. It's all free there. So it's, unless you've got a great client that you're working for, say in the marine photography would be a boat builder or someone supplying sails or parts. That's the only way to do it for them directly. You can't do it with the magazines any longer, newspapers. That's gone.
Anyone else? Corey?
I think, Brad, you with your 8th grade photography class, you alluded to it earlier that anyone who has taken an 8th grade photography class is now qualified to say, I'm a professional photographer.
Well, I mean, I have an iPhone, and I'm not afraid to use it. Yeah. I mean, I even have Instagram followers on Photograph. I mean, I got an iPhone. So, I mean, any other parts of the business? Carlo, Danielle, Stephen, Marina, Sharon, Anna, anybody else?
I mean, with the advent of social media, I mean, back in the 80s when I started shooting, I went straight to the top shooting the Celtics in the 80s, Larry Bird of the Boston Garden, the NHL with the Bruins. I could never take that path now with social media. All those doors for me would be closed now. So the business has really changed dramatically. Print is no longer the mainstream venue for our images. It's online with Instagram and Facebook.
Right. Okay, before we go to the audience participation Q&A, which will start up next, I have 2 rounds of a speed round. Now, when we're going to pass, we're going to go from Sharon this way. And I want quick answers to this question. First question on the speed round is the most expensive camera and how much it cost that you've destroyed in doing this job.
I probably can't remember. It was a film camera and a 300 millimeter lens, which in those days was pretty expensive. It was probably like $4,000 in a capsize in San Francisco Bay on a photo boat.
Corey?
I'm probably not qualified for this one. I've only had minor issues.
Well, you're obviously not getting in rough enough weather.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Out of my depth.
Sitting on the leeward side of Northern Light, going upwind, shooting for Bob Tiedemann and Elizabeth. On my butt, 16 millimeter lens, and the stanchion broke. So I went straight into the tide with a 16-35 and a 1DX, and probably spent, I don't know, whatever it was, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000.
I was in Stamford Harbor one day preparing for a shoot, and I stepped aboard the photo boat, and as I stepped aboard, my Nikon F4 or F5, whatever it was in those old days, just went right into the water, right off my shoulder. I had no idea what it cost, don't remember then, but it was probably prior to 1990.
I'm lucky. I killed just one drone. It cost 2,000. I do no one regatta. I just training and kill them.
Just one drone.
I think probably last year shooting Transpac to finishes, my fairly new R5, which is $4,000, and my $1,800 100 to 500 lens took a full-on wave and just totally soaked us, and my camera just shut down at that point. Salt water, done.
In 1992 at the America's Cup. No, yes, I was up in a helicopter, and it was the first time I used that helicopter, and all the others have a lip. So I took my picture, I changed lenses, I put the 300 to 8 down, and took a few more pictures, and I looked down, and the lens was gone. So $3,000 later, the Swiss insurance paid for it. Thank you. And the little detail is that the next day I went to show my pictures to a super yacht owner, and he says, "Yeah, I told my friend that that was a 300 millimeter 2.8. The lens fell down so close to the yacht, and he's a camera fan. He knew the 300 millimeter 2.8 lens. That's how close that lens fell down next to his boat."
Wow. Great.
And the Swiss insurance paid for it. Thank you.
All right. Carlo?
For me, just not with my camera, just a company, a Fuji company. They gave me one camera to test. And after 2 hours, they stole the camera. And the camera was completely brand new without the name on the top, because the presentation was 1 week or 10 days later. And the day after, the machine was online. All the news of the camera was online. And this was a big problem for the company, because nobody they know there was the new camera come out. The guy they tried to buy the camera. They sold the camera the day after in internet, and there was no way to receive the camera back. And but the news was huge, because it was 10 times more, because the camera was brand new. The guy they stole the camera. They don't know there was. For this, it was the first time it happened. One thing so like this.
There you go. Okay, so we're staying with Carlo. Last speed round, one-word answers. What's your favorite venue to take photographs at?
There is a lot, but one of the best for me is that the Sydney Hobart.
My favorite is the Sydney Hobart race. It starts in Sydney, and gets colder and colder, but the backgrounds in Tasmania are spectacular.
Block Island Race Week.
Nice. Your favorite, oh, I'm sorry, your favorite venue, your favorite place to go take pictures.
It's a Monaco Classic.
The Monaco Classic? Is that what you said? Okay.
Nova Scotia, Newfoundland.
Grenada Sailing Festival of the workboats of the locals sailing their homemade rigs in Grenada.
I mean, Antigua is probably a close second to Newport.
There you go.
Transpac Race, which is 2,225 miles between Los Angeles and Hawaii or Oahu. The finishes. That's my favorite place.
Excellent.
Molokai Channel, 50
So-
miles from the finish.
So Corey is the only one who won this speed round because he said Newport, Rhode Island.
I knew what the stakes were.
Yeah. Okay, so we have about 10 or 15 more minutes to go through some questions from the audience. Let's let some room in here. Let's have some people come up along the walls that are hanging out outside. Have folks come up and stand along the walls. Come on in. Any questions from the audience? Let's go here. Yes. Sorry, I'll get you next. Yep. So let's go with editing. Stephen, in terms of editing photos these days, how tedious is it in getting that right, getting the images right?
Probably the hardest part, especially working with Daniel, is straightening the horizon.
I can do that on my iPhone.
Yes, yeah, it's automatic these days, yeah. No, it's a pretty quick process for us. We've been doing it for so long. We can do a gallery of 50 or 100 images pretty quickly. So that's actually, I think the hardest part is actually going out there and getting the images and lining everything up and making it right. And editing is kind of just a formality that we just kind of power our way through.
Great.
Can I jump in there?
Sure. Yeah.
So in the days of slide, you had to shoot a lot more because there was no leeway. With digital now, if you get the capture right, the work that you do in the computer is minimal and you can move on. So the trick is to really know your craft and shoot accurately and nail it first time. Not put the thing down in a hammer drive and shoot 50 exposures, but shoot 1, 2, or 3, get it right, put it in the computer, couple slight little tweaks, boom, done, move on.
Great. Short comment? Okay.
So we started with Kodachrome and take pictures. And
Okay, don't go back into the 1920s here.
You better get it ready. So in '77, I went to the shop here with the Kodachrome, and 3 days later the film comes back. So you have one lighter, one in the middle, one darker. My point is that every Kodachrome slide taken costs $1. So we were thinking before we're taking the pictures. And now you take 14 frames a second on a digital card, and you choose the best one. So when we're the lab now, Steve helps me obviously a lot to sort the best picture out, where we spend a few hours after the rega, instead of going drinking and bringing the film to the lab, we spend a few hours editing the pictures every day. So that's the big change.
Great. Okay, right here. So the question is, on the first part of the question is, are there instances to use that you like to use film versus digital? I'll let Dan answer this one.
I'm glad to see that film has gone away. I like digital only.
Anybody else? Yeah, it's true. That's the reason that I didn't graduate from 8th to 9th grade in my photography. I just couldn't stand the smell of the darkroom. Yes, over there. Oh, wait, you had a second part. Anybody want that one?
It's totally a different way of thinking to be shooting video than to be shooting still photography. I know certainly some of the other panelists have tried it, and it's making a movie is 3 different arts. It is the shooting it, the editing it, and the music and audio. And we all hate trying to do both because everyone thinks, oh, your camera, you just flip a switch, it also shoots video. And you flip that switch, and out comes a 3-minute polished, edited film. And there's a whole lot more work and thought and planning and production that goes into it. And if you're trying to do both at the same time, you're not doing both of them as well as they can be done. And I think we're all perfectionists.
I must say that video is very, very rewarding. I've done quite a lot of it. I just did a whole trip with my wife down ICW into the Bahamas, shooting stills and video. And you can shoot both. You just have one camera set up for the one and the other camera for the other. The editing is a huge chore, but to pick up the sound of the birds early in the morning, or the rustle of the breeze in the trees, it's a whole different thing. It's a lot more work, but it's super rewarding. I love doing it.
Great. Yes, over here. Okay, lightning round. What light do you like to shoot in? Morning, afternoon?
Early morning, late light. And I'm just going to come back just for a second to answer my high latitude cruising story. From 10 o'clock.
Okay, Danielle.
From 10 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning, you get the golden hour. And that is the magic hour. So from sunrise for about an hour and a half in the morning, and then again late in the day. Sorry, Danielle.
Who agrees with early morning and late afternoon? Anybody else have a different light that they like to? Okay, I think that's generally the answer. Ned. Yeah, you're allowed.
Professional, but also somewhat personal. You've created your own brand, your vision is recognizable. Given the challenges that you've had over the last couple of years, how has that changed the way that you see life through your camera?
What challenges are you talking about? Okay, so my medical challenges. So I've just come through pancreatic cancer a year, and I'm clear, and I'm steaming on. It's been amazing to get back on the water. Brad was great with a finish of one of the legs of the ocean race. I said, I don't have the energy to get my chase boat back in the water. Brad said, come with me. He's, of course, the chief of the whole bay. He's got the flag. I'm the only one on the boat. It felt great to be back on the water shooting sailboats with Brad. It's been remarkable to be back. So thank you for asking.
Okay, the question is, and we're going to go to Sharon for this one, drivers of your boats. First of all, actually, Anna, who's your favorite boat driver that is not named Vanderwall? You. Sharon, talk about a little bit about your teammate, who is your boat driver.
Both boat drivers and helicopter pilots, it's a huge challenge for us. To have somebody who understands what's going on in the water and is very capable at driving a powerboat for a photographer and keeping everybody safe and out of the way of the racing boats. Same with piloting, having a good pilot. We fly with doors off, and if depending on the size of the helicopter you're in, is having a good pilot that isn't going to hover over top of sailboats, and then you can imagine the response that you get from the competitors down below. And to have a good pilot that will get up at 00:00 in the morning and pick me up and take me out 50 miles offshore to photograph a Transpac race or one boat coming in a Transpac race, and is a really good pilot and can fly backwards.
Excellent. Thanks, Sharon. All right, Stephen, do you have a particularly sketchy helicopter story? How many people here have a sketchy helicopter story? Yeah. Okay, Stephen.
This is from back at the Sydney Hobart race a bunch of years ago. Right at the start, on day one, we're in the air, and everybody is given a grid and an altitude you have to stay in. And it was my job to look on the left-hand side. The pilot sits in the front right, and if he wanted to turn left, he had to clear it through me, and I had to sweep the horizon and our altitude to make sure there was nobody near us. It was pretty crazy, and Daniel was just sitting in the back having a cappuccino, relaxing. And then on that same Sydney Hobart, bringing the helicopter back to Sydney Airport before we went to get the finishes off Port Arthur in Tasman Island, there was a problem with the alternator. The pilot was very worried about losing the battery power, and he said if the battery reaches a certain level, we have to land immediately no matter where we are. And we came within, I think, about 2 clicks of making it back to the Sydney Hobart Airport before we had to actually land no matter where we were.
Great.
And I know Carlo has some crazy adventure stories, Sharon as well. Do you want to talk about any of them?
Yeah. Okay. Look, we have time for one more audience question. Yep, you've had your hand up a bunch of times. Yep.
Just a quick comment. Years ago, I hired a pilot
Excellent. That was a great infomercial, Corey. All right. Well, the good news here is we're going to be able to go out into the museum. Please be careful of the artwork. And you can be able to ask questions of any of our panelists. I really appreciated being here. Thank you, Danielle. Let me turn it back over to Danielle to close up.
A quick final huge thank you to Brad for moderating such a wonderful panel, our esteemed panelists. Again, please join us outside for a cocktail reception, opportunity to mix and mingle, and also you'll see some photographs that we put on view for the evening that you can enjoy. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Disorganized. I had a whole binding.
You are amazing.
I was actually kind of nervous of this one. I've never done, well, I've done some panels with it.